Well, shall
on.
we talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I'd love to. What are you recording this Zoom or shall I?
You think maybe we should just do the Zoom?
Listen, I don't care. You're the one who.
You say that, I'm gonna make you edit it.
You could not.
Was this my idea? Yes. Will I edit it? Fuck no.
I simply will refuse to do it.
Fair enough. Let's just do it right here, Mark.
All right.
And
can I start?
Yeah, please jump right in, sir.
Welcome, firstly, to Snackable Graves, episode 2. This is what you get. This is what you fucking paid for, right? This is what you paid for, to quote Rihanna. Every month you'll get a little bit of extra shit. No one ever expects the Rihanna fucking references, but they are there if you look for them. I've been peppering Rihanna references throughout the last year and a half with Jack of all Grapes. Yeah. Jack of all Grapes. I'm 3 tins deep in case you hadn't noticed.
Totally flying under the radar. Couldn't tell. So
anyway, listen, I'm giddy as shit. Absolutely fucking giddy as fuck. The credits have just rolled on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 22, right? The fucking Netflix reboot. It's not a reboot, is it?
No, it's a sequel. It's a sequel to the first, as I saw from that timeline everyone was posting everywhere.
Well, thanks to Scream, I can only call it a requel now.
I don't think that's what a requel is.
I think that's very much what a requel is. It's a new chapter which reintroduces the whole deal, the whole story, the whole fundamental premise to a new audience, whilst being very much in the original continuity and featuring some of the original cast, some of the original.
You know what? You're right. This one is a requel because the point in that was that it was supposed to sort of like retcon some of the older, bullshittier timelines. So, okay, yeah, you're right. This one is a requel.
It is. You may or may not be interested to learn that we gave this exactly the same score on Letterboxd.
I saw that and I was amazed. That never happens.
I know. Which is why another reason why I was so absolutely delighted and eager to jump the fuck on here and talk to you about it. So I guess you liked it then.
I quite enjoyed this movie. I absolutely did. And I have a few questions for you about it. I'm excited to just talk about it generally. But let's get those overall thoughts about it rolling.
Let's do that.
Right now.
But, again, to those who are listening to this, you get a little bit of extra joy every month thanks to your ongoing support through Ko-Fi. And what we're doing this month is Corey and I have just watched the brand new Texas over the me literally 10 minutes ago, Corey last night. And because it's an event, and it is, a brand new entry in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's an event. This one more so because of the way it's landed. I think a new Texas on streaming is noteworthy in and of itself. This is the one where Texas, what could be more mainstream than a Netflix debut? What could be more?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't say populist, I pulled back, but what could be more fucking, what could be more 2022 than debuting a fucking a chapter in such a weird fucking franchise as this on Netflix? Very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it's not a conversation we'll go to the limits of here, but I think it's one that's waiting in the wings.
Okay.
Considering my first exposure to Texas was in my tape trading days, was buying VHS copies of fucking, dubs after dubs after dubs.
Now, I'm sure this would have been one of your video nasties, right? Like one of those things you were not allowed to see there.
It was more so Texas 3, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3.
Really?
You look, in the UK, thanks to Mary Whitehouse, thanks to the Tories, anything that remotely hinted at having a chainsaw in it was gone, right? You could not get anything in the UK that was chainsaw related. It was verboten. It was just a video nasty. It was,
right.
Film and non grata. Yeah, completely.
You couldn't make a movie about lumberjacks in the UK without being censored.
no, if there was any peril around chainsaws, it would be gone. And fast forward to 2022, I just hit play on a absolutely gory as fuck brand new entry on Texas Chainsaw Massacre on a streaming service.
Super cash.
That's
no
incredible
big
to me. Incredible to me.
Incredible. So out the gate, Mark, thoughts? What did you think of this movie?
Why would you tear this film down?
I'm with you on that. I mean, if we want to start there, it is fascinating how polarizing this movie seems to be.
I've loved the discourse over the past few days. I've really enjoyed sifting through it. Yes, I have. I've really enjoyed people coming out for it, going, what? Why would you? It's been very interesting, the people who have seemingly lined up to take a shot at it within fucking hours of it landing on Netflix.
Right.
You know? You realize, and I'm speaking to a fictional character here. I'm speaking to an avatar of everybody who slated this film on Twitter.
Sure.
You do realize that this is how we get good things. This is how we get new entries in franchises that are interesting.
Well, I think that on its face is one of the issues right here, is that there are a lot of people out there who just don't believe you should make more franchise movies. And a lot of those people went into that movie with that mindset that they just think, don't touch the thing that I liked when I was younger. It's not going to be the exact thing that I liked, and therefore I'm going to hate it. And so I think that in and of itself, like that you look at this and you're like, I'm looking for this to jumpstart my next entry into Freddy, in my next entry into thing. So many people are just vehemently against that. I'm not on that team, but
why? Have you never had fun with a fucking franchise entry? Do you not enjoy? Tell me, any of you fucks who slated this on Twitter, did you or did you not enjoy when Jason fucking killed the girl in the sleeping bag? Did you not enjoy when Freddy made the guy's head blow up by scraping his nails down a blackboard? Do you not enjoy the fact that there's still, after all this time, money to be made and audiences to be delighted and stories to be told with the most iconic horror characters? Fuck off.
Yeah.
Look, I like A24 as much as the next guy, right?
Right.
I enjoy, and you and I, barely a week goes by where you and I don't watch a little art house horror and enjoy the shit out of it and celebrate that there is a way for these creators with incredible dark, graphic, fucking scary stories to tell have an audience. We love that shit, you and I.
Absolutely.
Jack of all graves is all about that shit.
How much did I rave about that Welsh movie I watched last week? I'm in it for those little things.
But if you're fucking telling me you can't find pleasure in new entries, in stories that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, seen through the eyes of brand new talent, up and coming talent, with brand new fresh face casts that speak to the history of the slasher genre, that speak to all that are imbued with all that has gone before, right? In that Leatherface, there was so much of Gunnar Hansen's performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much. There was also I caught a flavor of Texas 2, of that weird fucking pervert Leatherface bursting through doors. Yes, there's a scare in that Texas Chainsaw Massacre that is straight out of Texas 2.
And there are multiple moments in this where I thought they intentionally emulated the colors of the original. Yes. They emulated. Oh,
such a great word.
Emulated. I don't know what it means, but we'll work on a definition for that.
Yeah.
They emulated the look of the original in these really interesting ways that I think there's some ways they could have done that in scenes where we fall into the trap of the 2022 make every movie too dark to see everything problem.
Yeah.
But there are several scenes in this where you get that nighttime scene in the field that looks very much like the nighttime scene from the original Texas. You get that golden hour lighting that you get at the end,
wonderful.
And the beautiful shot at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. These wonderful ways that it harks back to the original, that I love to see in something that also brings something fresh to it.
And look, you're right. It is a beautiful film. There is so much visually happening in this film. That entire sequence in the poppy field is absolutely gorgeous. Really light is used beautifully. You know, there's a lot of really nice neon. The Texas sun is great. That scene on the bus, the neon scene on the bus, it's an environment that we've never seen Leatherface in. Right. So what would happen if we put Leatherface under a neon light in a bus full of people?
Yeah, in an enclosed space.
That would happen. Cool fucking fun shit would happen.
Yeah, absolutely that. And I think, you know, when it comes to something like this, you have this mix of the myth that films were ever original. You know, people are always like, why don't people make original concepts anymore? Listen, the moment movies came out, they started making 6 versions of the same thing within 5 years. Go and Google how many versions of A Christmas Carol there are. We have always done this. So this idea that like, oh, why don't we make new stuff? Like, it's always been this way. Okay. So
and also,
let's get over that.
Oh, look, I'm sorry. Look, I'm going to talk a watershed moment in my life as a consumer of fucking, you know, art and content. We're going back maybe 15 years now. Like a dickhead, right? I said to some guy once, a guy called Matt, I can't remember his surname. I was in uni with him. It's just like there's almost no good guitar bands anymore. He said to me, right, okay. He made sure that I was in my house the next night, and he came over with a fucking stack of mini discs this big and sat me down and played me a fuck ton of amazing guitar music and changed my fucking mind. Anyone, you fucking idiot, if you are saying right now, well, there's just no original fucking horror anymore. Fuck, listen to Jack of all Graves, motherfucker. We talk about brand new, original, fresh horror every fucking week, right? The ground is so fertile right now for horror that there is a place for art house, and there is a place for little character driven and unexpected personal horror. There's loads of that around, but there's a place. Scream has taught us, Halloween has taught us, there is a place for franchise entries now, and if Netflix means that they're going to reach a brand new audience on the day of release, that don't have to schlep their ass to the pictures and don't have to fucking sit there, you know, with genre fanboys who are fucking sweating and perspiring and calling the film shit right there.
Yeah, the gatekeepers. That's that other element. There's always going to be people who want to gatekeep it, and it's not. If it is not literally 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they are disinterested, or at least it's not Tobe Hooper Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're out the gate like, fuck anyone who wants to enjoy this, you know. But I saw
a great entry into one of my favorite franchises tonight, and that's all.
And I will say, just to harp back on just what you said, I do think we have Fear Street. Whatever you thought of that trilogy, whether you loved it or hated it, Fear Street has a lot to do with why we are going to continue seeing this on here, and why we get stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and hopefully Texas Chainsaw Massacre also will add to that again, whether people liked it or not, they watched it. You know, if you're on horror Twitter, everybody watched it and had an opinion of it. And so this
all of the big swings of horror recently, all of the kind of, you know, the tentpole horror entries have just succeeded. Like nobody's fucking business. All right, fair enough. Halloween Kills was divisive, right? But it made a fuck ton of money.
Yeah. Halloween
2018, critically really well received, made a fuck ton. All right, Netflix don't release their figures, but Fear Street was a massive success for them. It's commonly held opinion.
Yes. So we're seeing them just release moneymaker after moneymaker in the horror genre, perhaps more than most. I mean, they make money off of a salacious, stupid documentary like Tinder Swindler, things like that. Those a Tiger King, things like that. We know those become zeitgeist, and we know their horror movies become zeitgeist. And
Texas
so we
has
get more.
100% become zeitgeist. Again, I've really enjoyed the discourse. I've been sifting through it. People going, just the people have enjoyed it, you know, just unapologetically enjoyed it. And let's break down the title of this film, right? This 3-word title of this film, because it delivers on every metric. Where does it take place?
Well, let's say Texas, but also I looked it up and it was filmed in Bulgaria. This is actually like one of my few critiques of this movie is that it is clearly a set, and I wish it weren't clearly a set.
Okay.
That is a little bit of an issue for me. But yes, on its face, let's go with it takes
you
place
see what
in
I'm
Texas.
getting at?
Yes.
It, what is the one power tool that gets all the screen time?
It's the chainsaw.
And oh my word, is there a massacre?
Boy, howdy, is there a massacre? And this is another thing that I think the plot is maybe not super strong. But again, when we look at the initial Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it is not strong on plot. That's not the point of this. No. So one of the things I wanted to, as we set out towards examining this movie, I just want to get a sense, what is it you love about the OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And let's talk about how that relates to this one.
Yep, great. And what a huge question. What I love about the OG Texas is that those kids in the van are not special at all. They could be anyone's sons or daughters. They could be going anywhere, doing anything. They were in the wrong fucking place at the wrong time. They made a shit decision to pick up the wrong hitchhiker. But they could have been anyone. Anyone can stumble in to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that's what I love about the idea as a whole. It's so fucking weird, and it could be anywhere, and you could be anyone. But if you make the wrong decision and you fall afoul of them, then that's it. You're fucked forever.
Right. So the arbitrariness is at the heart of why this works, and why plot doesn't super matter in it. That you don't have to provide a ton of background to anyone. You don't have to do a lot with what's happening in it, because
you and I have spoken at length about how bored message horror can be.
Right.
Boring message horror can be. And this kind of, butted up against that.
It has some of those. I was talking to your brother earlier, and I said that to him. I was like, there's message in there. They don't spend long enough on it for it to annoy you that much. Yeah,
in fact, the message is so brief, it's hardly a message at all. It's more of a comment or a nod. You think your phone will save you, do you? You think your social media bubble will save you? You think your live streaming will save you? It won't. You can't hold up your fucking, or even your online discourse as a weapon.
Or even like I think there's that, so the idea of like weaponized cancel culture. There's also something to be said of like the desensitization of Americans to the death of youths, that when people see, I mean, you've got this girl who has survived a school shooting, you've got people seeing the live stream and basically doing the faking gay as a response to it, just like totally like nobody gives a shit about the amount of violence that is foisted upon the typical American child at a very young age. So there's something there to it, but it's certainly not the point. It's a little like, there's a gentrification thing in there. And I like that the gentrification can be done by anyone. It's not just like, easy white people move into a place and a bunch of black people are terrorized by it or something like that. It is a diverse group of Gen Zers who come in here and fuck up this place. Like, like it's just not like just like your obvious smack you over the head with a message, and it does not take up the entire movie. It's just kind of
God no. It's an excuse to get these people in front of the saw. That's all it is.
It gets you there. That's it. And then let's watch them get butchered in some wild ways.
Yeah, I mean, my God. Look, where does this fit in the series for you then, in terms of
quality, or like which I like, or
quality first? For me, it nuzzles right into the remake timeline.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we've both determined that the remake timeline is pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah, like we have had a really good time with them, because they do what you want with them. They're just gory and a little arbitrary and crazy. And, you have a plot line that gets you there. And then from there, it's filled with, what I really loved in this is the tension and the dread, there's always this sense that you're like, I know this person can't get away, but maybe they will. And when they finally meet their end, it is grotesque and terrible. And you're like, fuck, I thought maybe they could do it. It's not predicated on them making the worst decision possible. They make
this is
good
something
decisions.
that a lot of people have said. Well, on Twitter, I mean, some characters make the worst decisions possible at the worst possible time.
Like the bus driver getting off the bus. Why?
Girl hiding in the bedroom closet.
Well, except that where was she supposed to go? I thought that made perfect sense. And she didn't do the thing that drives me crazy in movies where she sits in there and then she goes,
breathes heavily,
She sat there and she was very, very quiet. And she was like trying to figure out what am I gonna do if he does this? But where else was she gonna go?
OG Sally or Stretch would have dived through the closed window.
Well, that's true. It's a very good point. Which she does kind of eventually do.
Anecdotally, right? The first kill when Leatherface stabs a guy in the throat with his own fucking jagged bone.
Wrist. His own radia and ulna, radius and ulna.
An idea of how into that I was. I opened a tin and was pouring a drink as that happened. And I was so fucking giddy with what was going on screen. I didn't look down and was just poured a full glass all over my lap because I was just aghast at what was unfolding.
That was much like, my favorite kill from Demon Knight, the idea of injuring someone and then using their injured body to then kill them. It's a beautiful thing. It was, and it's the first thing you see. So it gets you into this movie where you're like, oh, so that's what we're doing? Snap the dude's arm in half and stab him in the throat with the bones. Okay.
So good. I just observations as they come to me now. I've always been a fan of gender fluid Leatherface, right? I enjoy the fact that Leatherface is gender fluid because he is. He will put on a girl's face. He will wear a dress. He will wear makeup. He will assume a feminine or a masculine persona. Leatherface is 100% gender fluid, and they totally leaned into that.
Yeah.
Not only is he wearing his mother's face, he's picking out her clothes. He's putting on makeup.
Doing the makeup,
becoming his mother. I love it.
Right. There's a little Norman Batesy in there.
Completely.
This is a movie that knows where it came from, which I really appreciated in it too. It feels like it is a very modern teen horror, but it also knows about your 90s slasher, it knows about your 80s slasher, it knows about your 70s slasher, and it is going to give you a little bit of all of those things, which I think makes it extremely fun. That is kind of like everything that I've liked about decades and decades of slashers is present in this movie.
I think it's another one that has reached the same point that Scream did, where it doesn't need to pause on or call out its diversity. It's simply there.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's what I think is marks it as different from a lot of the message horror of the newer kind, is that it just sort of is what it is. It doesn't feel the need to impress upon you that, oh, these are people of color and this is what white people do and black people do and Asian people do and blah, 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 blah. It's just kind of this is what our world looks like. So here it is. We don't need to remark upon it, getting closer to that thing we keep on talking about of when does horror for people of color just get to be horror movies and not a commentary on our condition all the time.
Based on the big hitters of the last few months, it feels like maybe we're getting there.
That it's starting to be that case. I hope.
I'm gonna pee. I need a big wee.
Okay, go for it.
A pause or
this is a very Corey thing of you. mid conversation. Sneaky 10,
mate. Honestly though, all I felt was good vibes watching that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We spoke so much about how much I love Texas, and I didn't pick my phone up once. I picked my phone up to take notes, but I was really my notes were gibberish in parts because I didn't want to look down from what I was watching, which is very rare for me.
My brain does not do that. So the fact that I wanted to keep watching and just watching is huge.
This was a very welcoming entry into the franchise for people who are just jumping on for the first time, right?
Oh, absolutely. You don't really need any prior knowledge from this. It gives you everything you need 100%.
To know. You know that I love Doctor Who, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every new companion that Doctor Who gets, they have to have that moment where they come on board the TARDIS for the first time and they freak out because it's huge, right? What they did here was very similar to that in a way, in that we see Leatherface fucking cutting someone's face off. And I knew that I was in for a good time, the way that they positioned that entire thing with her on the walkie-talkie. He's cutting off her face. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Really good.
Yeah.
We know exactly what it's about now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it brought in the old stuff very well, which is, you know, all you can really ask for something like this. It will bring someone back to be like, if they watch this and enjoyed it, they're going to go and they're going to look.
I love that reveal in the beginning that where we pull back and it's an Unsolved Mysteries type TV show, which is playing in that gas station. So good.
Absolutely. And I think there's so many things again that they do that reference it in interesting ways, including the ultimate reversals that happen in the last like 10-15 minutes of this movie, including, you know, basically everything is the opposite of Sally escaping in the truck in this, from the sisters being locked in the back of the car as Sally goes off to fight Leatherface, to obviously as they drive away in that automated car, and you're like, oh, here you think this is an homage to Sally laughing and, you know, escaping at the end of the movie, and instead you watch the sister get pulled through the window and just unceremoniously decapitated with that classic Leatherface swing.
A great decapitation as well, just a second done.
Yep. Oh boy. I mean, I really rewound it. Movie. Not gonna lie, I rewound it.
Hey, for an 18-minute film, it probably took me at least 90 minutes to watch because I rewound most of the kills. Stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite kill?
Favorite of them?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's hard to top that first one. Like there
was one that I watched more than the rest. I did rewind one in
based
particular
on
a lot.
When you sent me a selfie of you reacting to it, that it was Hick guy getting his head smashed in.
No, I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed him as well.
Yeah, although I immediately was like, oh, this guy's definitely from the UK or something, right? Where is that accent from? And he's from, I think, Ireland.
Hello there. Yeah.
Like, no, my favorite kill is from space. But,
my favorite kill was on the bus, where he pretty much bisects some guy from his shoulder right down to his fucking groin.
There's a lot of good bisecting with that thing. I mean, the like PR gal who goes out the window and is sawed in half, so her body just sort of falls down the bus.
Yep, beautiful.
There's, I mean, even when Sally gets it, you know, it's kind of a like raising her up with the saw in her midsection and then throwing her with it. Like there's a lot of good saws up the middle of people's bodies in this.
I love bisecting so much you might call me a bisexual, I swear.
Jesus Christ.
I love it. I really do. It it does not fuck about. I'd like to speak to somebody who didn't enjoy it to get my head around why.
Yeah, honestly, you're right. I mean, that's the thing, is I want someone to like genuinely argue this is terrible. Not argue even. That's not what I mean, but like explain what didn't work. It through. I know that our pal Ryan Joyner watched it and he had said that it was like a mix of like love and hate, where he absolutely loved parts and he absolutely hated parts, and then came out with meh. And I never had that I hate this.
No, God, not at all. I see why people might be a little bit conflicted, right? Because it is giddy, as I described it.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, it can be quite difficult to get on board and completely swallow it when the message is right in front of your face, and that is a bit clumsy.
Sure, yeah.
But my God, what you've got here is a really Leatherface was so good in this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you add a little bit of intrigue to his backstory. You know what I mean? He was, a foundling or an orphan. You add a little bit there. You give him a little bit of sympathy. He feels love towards this woman who they've wronged.
Right. And we all hate influencers. So we're on his
those
side.
Those YouTubey types of people are the worst.
YouTuber type people. YouTuber-y type people.
Hell.
I think one of the things that also dawns on me about this, and like, I don't want to, like, obviously everyone has things that they don't like for whatever reason. So it's not like you're clearly wrong if you hated this movie.
No.
But again, one of the things that always strikes me is it's kind of like when, people say, oh, you could never make Blazing Saddles today, right? And the reason that you can't make Blazing Saddles isn't because of like the saucy humor in it that's like too racist or too sexist or things like that. Because as much as I hate that movie because of my experience with it, it's supposed to be lampooning that racism and that sexism and all that kind of stuff. But you couldn't make that movie now because humor has changed. And so the way you express that would not translate over. And that's the thing is you couldn't make Texas Chainsaw Massacre today because that is not how we watch movies. That is not how we engage with this kind of story.
Oh, listen, I've had this exact experience when trying to watch Star Wars with my kids.
Sure,
You can't sit a fucking 8-year-old down and expect them to enjoy A New Hope in the way that you did when you saw it first.
It's just not the way things are made now.
Nope.
And that doesn't mean kids these days don't appreciate a good movie or whatever.
No, not at all. It doesn't mean that.
Doesn't mean that in the slightest. It just means that like our cultural tastes shift and movies don't hit the same way. Like I was thinking about what works in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how you have to be in the mindset for it. For example, I'm thinking about in the OG when the one gal gets hung on the hook, and doesn't matter how many times I see that, I still like cover my eyes and you don't see anything.
No.
When you're watching that, it somehow is extremely effective. But if you made that like right now, it just feels like you'd need more and just kind of the entire tone of it, the entire vibe of it, the cheesy acting, the things like that like come across the way they do, it works when you're in the mode for that. But for a 2022 audience, try making that and make the exact same movie. Make it shot for shot. Make the same movie. I'd love to know. Work.
Well, was Texas 78? 74?
4, I think.
74. Was Texas 74 a success with a younger audience upon its release? Maybe I don't know.
I mean, I think it's always been cult, right? It's never been a mainstream movie. So that's also worth taking into consideration too. If you're going to make something like that, it's either going to be extremely niche or you're making something for a larger audience.
I suspect they weren't looking to make millions from that movie.
No, absolutely not. That's not what that was made for. And but it has endured because it hits something, and that for me, when I watch that movie, I think what works about it is it does a lot of things that I hate in movies, but I appreciate it for the way it unsettles.
What does it do that you hate? I'm really curious.
Hysterical woman, for one, that she spends the entire last half hour of the movie just screaming. I hate that. What are you screaming at? Who's going to do anything about this? Why are you sitting at a table screaming? There's no reason for you to scream. But at the same time, I will watch that movie because it adds to just the fact that like of the futility of that and that it irritates me so much is part of what works about it and makes it so uncomfortable and unsettling.
Yep. I mean, the relentless screaming in that sequence that you're talking about, that it's got to be 20 odd minutes. That's one of the things that elevates the whole fucking thing for me. It's this idea that when you are confronted with something as macabre, when you are confronted with something as inscrutable and violent and terrifying, the only reaction you have left. You can't reason with it. She's
got nothing. Yeah, she just
the only thing you can do is scream and scream and scream and scream and try to escape.
I mean, that would not be me by any stretch of the imagination. But that's part of why it works.
You'd be Steak, wouldn't you?
I mean, come on. Like, this would not be. It's like either I would be trying to reason a way out of it, or I would just be dead. That's it. There's no me sitting there screaming all that time, being like, what is this for? This is a waste of my energy.
What would you do?
But that I don't relate to it helps.
Yeah. What would you do with the franchise now? Because I've got a pitch for a sequel. I know what I would like to see next.
I mean, obviously they're going back to his house. I mean, we see that at the end credits, at the or after credits scene. He's going back home. And so I think what I imagined, I don't know if I'm going to say what I hope is going to happen or whatever, but what I have imagined from that end credit scene is a going back to something more akin to the original, that I imagined them somehow ending up with and you can use the YouTuber angle on this. YouTuber is apparently now my phrase. Totally. But somehow people ending up at that house, whether by a challenge or whatever the case may be, and him just ripping through some people.
I think the next one should bring back Stretch properly, should bring back Stretch from part 2 properly.
And she's obviously still alive and doing her thing. So
she's still alive. She's still plugging away. She's still in canon involved in the hunt for Leatherface because she makes her cameos in part 3.
Okay.
I think we brought back Sally in part 1. We bring back Stretch in part 2. She's the roving reporter who's chasing a Pulitzer, whilst trying to find closure for herself. She tracks Leatherface down to the fucking house, and you merge somehow in the screenplay and in the fucking shoot. You merge that fucking deranged sensibility of part 2.
Yes. Oh, I would love that. Because honestly, and I don't mean to offend you here, Mark, but I actually like part 2 more than I like part 1.
No offense.
Because of that. It's
easily
unhinged.
As enjoyable as part 1 for totally different reasons.
Completely different reasons. Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to see if they can bring back Stretch for another fucking requel of the sequel.
Yeah, it makes me think. I mean, I'd love to see Stretch. I think it would be great to have her back. And she's, like I said, still doing her thing. I think that would be awesome. And you could even sort of tie it of like, she has heard about what happened to Sally, and as the other final girl of this situation, now she feels the need to sort of follow up on what happened. And boom, you can bring her right back into this. She returns to where this happened. Who do you bring in as I would love to cast that out as just, you have to match someone like Dennis Hopper's energy in this, right? Like, what kind of actors would you love to see?
Nick Cage, you mean?
I mean, Nick Cage obviously seems like the clear
is that you
the
mean?
Clear choice.
But no, it's exactly the same reason that I wanted to see a sequel to the 2013 Evil Dead, because I would love to see how you do that tonal fucking swerve,
total shift,
and make comedy out of what you've just done.
Yeah.
Can you do that with Texas 2 in 22?
And that's an interesting, like, if Fede Álvarez was to do it again, we haven't seen him do like funny. We haven't seen him do that. We've seen him take these things very serious. I'm so desperate for him not to become
another District 9 guy.
Oh, Neil Blomkamp.
I'm so desperate for him not to become Neil Blomkamp.
Right. But
that early promise.
Except I think that what is different is that what Neil Blomkamp did was come up with a very cool original idea. And unfortunately, it was his only cool original idea. I would be fine if Fede Álvarez just kept making really good versions of like reboots or sequels to other stuff. I would not think that would be a waste of his talent the way that, just making a bunch of shit original stories has been with Neil Blomkamp.
100% law of diminishing returns with that guy. Every new thing he does is worse. But I can't agree with that anymore. If his niche if his stock in trade is revitalizing fucking absolutely huge slasher icons and making them work and making them relevant and scary again, then please
keep doing that. That's totally fine by me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to make a whole bunch of amazing original stories. If you're really good at making the ones I already loved, great again.
Yeah, because I'm not going to complain that there are no new ideas. They clearly fucking are. There are a million.
Yeah,
but if you can take an old idea that I love to
them.
bits and make it amazing again, mate, who loses out of that? No one.
Yeah, we all win.
Mm-hmm.
So, friends, we clearly recommend it. We say go and watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix. If you haven't already, you probably have. You probably were amongst the people who watched it in that first 24 hours. But if you haven't, go do it. You're going to have a good time, we think.
You will. And if you watch it and don't enjoy it, then we'd love to speak to you about why.
Yeah, explain it to us. Oh, we'd love that. Send us a video message on why.
Well, by all means, a reaction video. I mean, yes. I think I've dropped this quote from my my grandfather on the cast before, but he said
probably
to me,
a million times,
stuck with me. Wouldn't it be a boring world if we all like the same kind of things?
Exactly. No hard feelings one way or another, but we would love for you to explain to us why it wasn't just meh, but you just did not like it. So,
and
friends,
listen, if you're listening to this, if you are listening to this, then you're clearly a Ko-fi subscriber, and we are so grateful.
Indeed. Thanks for hanging out with us and subscribing to us and supporting us. We love you. You crazy chainsaw wielding weirdos. Okay. It's a lot of kisses. Stay spooky.